To tell the truth, most people in the travel community, they told that we are crazy. And for many people, as you know, visiting Syria, Afghanistan, and Libya is considered to be safer than going to Ukraine. And there is a reason for that. Because Ukraine is at full-scale war, and what we are doing is something really, really extraordinary, guys. This is, it's scary, and no one did what we are doing. No one went to the occupied areas without any humanitarian or rescue or military mission in such a group that we are doing. So even when we wanted to arrange a dinner in Izum, the restaurant owner told, I'm not accepting many people. This is too dangerous.
This is the Radio Vagabond.
After spending 10 days in Poland, in Krakow, one of my favorite European cities, I got on the train and went 3 hours east to the Polish border city with the hard-to-pronounce name. You give it a go. It's spelled P-R-Z-E-M-Y-S-L. I thought at some point it was Przemysl, but it's actually Przemysl or something to that effect. So Przemysl is where I was to meet the group and cross the border by train the next morning into Ukraine.
This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
This episode is supported in part by Hotels25.com. Use it to find the best prices on a place to stay, no matter where in the world you're going. Hotels25.com.
You can see pictures, videos, and links and read much more on the RadioVagabond.com.
I know a few of the people, but the first two I meet, I've never met before. The English policeman Sean Brannan and Tony Yang, a young Kiwi with Chinese descent who teaches competitive math. Yeah, it's a thing.
The trip to Ukraine starts tomorrow, and I'm here at a sidewalk cafe having a cup of coffee with two of the attendees that I only just met. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
And hi, Tony.
Hello.
So, Sean, you're from England, and Tony, you're from New Zealand, just traveling around. You are a nomad now?
Now, yes.
But a fairly new nomad.
Yeah, relatively new. New to the whole thing. Yeah.
And Sean, you're a cupper.
Yes. Soon to be retired. Hopefully, fingers crossed, copper. But yeah, so
Can I call you Bobby?
You can call me that. I've been called a lot worse, so that'll be absolutely fine by me. Yeah.
Right. So, why did you guys decide to go on this visit to Ukraine now?
Well, myself, I was looking at spending a bit of time in Ukraine, a bit of extended time in Ukraine for a few years. Obviously, the war happened, and it kind of put me on the back foot a little bit. When I saw this coming up on Orest's YouTube channel, I just thought it was a good opportunity for me to visit Ukraine with a few more people, with something that's a little bit more guided, and give me the opportunity to have a look around. So yeah, just a good opportunity for me, really.
Sean mentioned Orest Zub, and that's a name you're gonna hear a lot in these episodes from Ukraine. I've already had Ukrainian Orest here on the Radio Vagabond twice. Once when I met him in Croatia in June 22, and then again a few months ago when we were talking about this visit to Ukraine in a special episode. Orest is a 35-year-old Ukrainian who traveled extensively before and even after his country was invaded. During the war, the government asked him to fight the media war and help bring in awareness to the outside world about what is happening in Ukraine. He does that on his YouTube channel and by attending and speaking at events around the world. So we don't forget there's a war in Ukraine, even when it becomes yesterday's news, like when something horrible happens in the Gaza Strip or other places around the world. So Ukraine keeps having the support of the rest of the world.
My main goal and my mission, as I see it, is to establish as much of international connections between Ukraine and the rest of the world as possible, which is formulated in participating in the conferences, in bringing international organizations to Ukraine, in portraying local organizations in Ukraine and establishing them with the direct contact with Western organizations, with doing media supporting.
He also does this by organizing this tour. He lives in Lviv, in the safer western part of the country, with his wife, Marta Trotswick, also an accomplished traveler. Back to Sean and Tony. Here's Tony on why he decided to join this tour.
Well, personally, I don't have as much of a history with Ukraine, but I saw this opportunity and I thought, I might not get such an opportunity again in my life. I mean, I certainly don't hope there's another war within Europe within my life. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of see a war firsthand. Yeah.
See a war firsthand, Tony says. And you might be thinking, why? Why would anyone want to see a war firsthand? I know that was what my family said when I told them I was going to Ukraine, a country at war. For me, it was because it gave me an opportunity to show my support to the Ukrainian people and tell their story right here on the Radio Vagabond. But I'm not a war correspondent, and I don't take crazy risks, so I did a lot of research before saying yes, when Orest and Harry Mercedes, the founder of NomadMania, asked me. Part of the research was actually doing the episode with Orest a few months ago, talking about safety. Here he is again from that conversation.
Since recently, I understood that, Ukraine is kind of isolated still, because most people from inside of Ukraine cannot travel abroad. Most people from abroad are afraid to enter Ukraine. But people is the essence. Where you have people, you have life, you have money, you have connections, and so on. So I truly believe that the success of Ukraine depends on Western presence in Ukraine. So one of my I try to attract into Ukraine as many people as possible. Because, first of all, it's possible in terms of logistics, and it's definitely possible in terms of the safety situation. This is essential. If there are no people at particular place, it means there is no life. If there are people, the life is flourishing. So I want this place to flourish.
Have you had friends and family say, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah, certainly. I had to negotiate a lot with my parents and all my friends. When I tell them I'm going to Ukraine, they're always like, are you crazy? But for me, it's a calculated risk, and I feel like it's a lot less dangerous than people make it out to be. And also, I think, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I can't let this pass,
Yeah, well, I've had a Ukrainian family staying with me they've moved out now, but about a year, who fled Ukraine just at the outset of the war. So obviously they're quite surprised, and
even they were saying, what are you doing?
Yeah, so obviously they're aware that, I wanted to travel to Ukraine for quite a while, sort of thing. So, but yeah, they were surprised, but obviously supportive enough, because they know that obviously Ukraine still is continuing to work to some degree. So, yeah.
And I've known Harry and Orest for a long time, and I trust those guys, and they seem like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I only just met them or got to know them recently, but I think they're pretty trustworthy. Yeah, they seem pretty good at what they do.
If you've been listening for a while, you know a thing or two about Palebo. And now, he would like to know a bit about you. So please fill out the 5-minute survey and answer a few questions. It's on theradiovagabond.com/who are you. This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
Well, we're still in Przemysl, and the next morning we met at a restaurant at the Przemysl train station, and Orest explains how we crossed the border.
So everybody is here. Yeah. So what we do now, we take our stuff, we go inside the train station, then we go underground to the opposite side, and there is like an immigration section. Yes. So we go all together. You just follow me. Yeah. We will sit in the train. You have your tickets ready for this train. Everyone? Yes. We sit in the train, and then we just relax and go to Lviv. The immigration on the Polish side will happen here at the train station. Immigration on the Ukrainian side will be on the train. Then we arrive to Lviv. We have a transfer to hotel. There we can drop our stuff, the same hotel where we stay in Lviv, yeah? Then we'll have a dinner, and after this we come back to the hotel, we'll have a briefing about everything what's await for us, and then we continue, all right? Good, let's go.
Підготуйте, будь ласка, квитки та документи, що посвідчують особу. Пасажири без квитка нестимуть адміністративну відповідальність та будуть висаджені з поїзда. Ваш багаж просимо розмістити на...
The Lviv railway station is an impressive architectural landmark. The main building features a neoclassical architectural style with elements of Baroque and Renaissance influences. It has a grand and imposing facade with large columns, decorations, and a central clock tower. The building is painted in a pale yellow or cream color, giving it a distinct and elegant appearance. Inside the train station, we find a spacious and well-maintained waiting hall with high ceilings and large windows, allowing natural light to fill the space. The interior is full of historical details, creating a sense of grandeur and history. There are shops, kiosks, and cafes with snacks, refreshments, and souvenirs. The Lviv railway station, with its historic and elegant architecture, is not only a transportation hub, but also a significant cultural and architectural landmark in Lviv. It reflects the city's rich history and offers a welcoming and convenient space for travelers arriving or departing from Lviv. During the beginning of the invasion, more than 50,000 people were passing through the station as refugees from east to west every single day. There were many shelters and tents outside the station for people waiting to get on the train to Poland. Already as we arrive and admire the building, we see that this is a country at war. The police and military had closed the station, most likely after a bomb threat had been phoned in. And it wasn't until Orest had a talk with them that we were able to get through.
So basically what happened, they wanted to close the door before we entered. Yeah, they told that the railway station is mined. They just received like a notice. It's a blackmailing most probably, but still, yeah, and you can see that the door is also closed, right? So they don't let people in and out, and I told the service, like the policeman, just like you have to let us in, we don't go all around and so on, yeah? So the adventures actually start here, but it's a beautiful railway station as you can see, and our bus is waiting. So now follow me to the bus, yeah?
We're only staying in Lviv for a few hours before heading back on the train to go east. This is partly to drop off our bigger bags at the hotel we'll be back at in a few days, to get lunch and a local SIM card for those who needed that. But we start with a cup of coffee as Orest gives us a safety briefing.
To tell the truth, most people in the travel community, they told that we are crazy. And for many people, as you know, visiting Syria, Afghanistan, and Libya is considered to be safer than going to Ukraine. And there is a reason for that. Because Ukraine is at full-scale war, and what we are doing is very serious. So we are going to the east. Like, west is fine here, no problem, yeah? We are going to the east, yeah? You have to understand the real danger and real risk what we can be subject to. Ukraine is at a full-scale war, and there is a front line. And you all know on map how does it look like. This front line is basically stagnant for the recent month, so it's not moving. Like, there is no way it can expand very quickly. And most of the destructions you see on the video comes from the artillery fire. So this mass of destruction, which is now happening in Gaza, for example, mostly possible only when there is enough volume of artillery to hit something. Artillery works that it can shoot not further than 30 kilometers, as a rule, which means that everything beyond the artillery range can be considered relatively safe.
Artillery fire includes various large-caliber firearms, such as cannons and mortars. The range of artillery fire can vary based on the type of artillery piece and the specific ammunition being used. Short-range artillery typically has a range of up to 5 kilometers. Medium-range artillery can have ranges of several kilometers, often up to 30 kilometers, 20 miles.
Never in our itinerary we are getting closer than 40 kilometers to the front line. All areas that we will be in is beyond the reach of artillery range. However, there are long-range ballistic missiles. And these are that the Russians are shooting to Ukraine on a daily basis, pretty much everywhere. However, it's not possible to provide the same volume of ballistic missiles comparing to artillery, because they're simply too expensive, too complicated to navigate, and so on, yeah? So these mostly target particular objects that are of special interest and importance in this war. So the risk is the following: to be in the wrong place in the wrong time, which is very low probability. It's like close to zero, to be in the wrong place in the wrong time.
We could technically be a target.
Second risk, if there is a particular intention to target us. Let's say somebody sees that a group of 20 foreigners is a legitimate military target and they want to hit just us. How does it work? So first of all, there has to be intelligence. They probably, they notice that we were advertising this visit and they see like, oh, maybe they are interesting to do, which is very unlikely. We are not that important in the grand scheme of things, number one. Second, in order to hit something with the artillery missile, you need preparation, intelligence, coordination, and coordinates. Which means that if the train is moving, if the bus is moving, it's very unlikely it will be hit with the missile, because it's simply moving around.
This is why we weren't given details on where exactly we would be going. All we knew before the trip that we were going to be in Lviv, Kharkiv, and Kyiv before heading back to Lviv. Not how we would get there, and not where we would be staying.
In our case, when we were planning our trip to the east, and tomorrow will be one of those days basically, we were organizing something. That's why we didn't tell anybody to you what we are going to do and where. And we were planning, and then we messed things up in the end, yeah? So just in case somebody was clearly following this path, what we want to do. So like now it's all changed, which gives us even more reasons that it probably will not be hit, yeah? As I told, it's very unlikely that we are the subjects, like the object of this attack. But in Ukraine, there is always a probability of anything, yeah? So this is like conscious risk of everyone.
Also, when we left Lviv, we were asked to turn off the location settings on our phones, so we couldn't be tracked.
Let's say we are in Kharkiv, and eventually there is 20 signals in one particular place. You know, so this is already a sign, okay, like what's happening there? Let's take a look. So that's why it's super important to disable it. I understand you might need it today for navigating around the city. We will disable it before we enter the train.
But there's another risk, landmines, especially when we go to a small village south of Kharkiv.
We will be joining the humanitarian convoy in the village. So when we arrive there, we will be for quite some time in one place. And this, theoretically, it could be that they will be doing like the distribution of food and you will have to head there and so on. But this happened only within the artillery range. If something like there's a village from the front line 5 kilometers, they see, there are like a few dozen people in one place, let's shoot there. In our case, we will be beyond the artillery range. Biggest risk in this village where we are going will be mines around. The mines are much bigger risk. People in Izum almost daily step on mines because they're like all around everywhere and they can be in the bush, they can be in the river, in mud and so on. Mines are much more dangerous. So we stick only to sealed roads. If somebody wants to pee, you pee just turning around. You don't go to the bush because it's a risk that there can be mines. Yeah? So just don't walk around, don't get too focused on the camera and you step on something. This is we have to be conscious about, yeah?
The week-long visit to Ukraine is organized by NomadMania, a community for extreme travelers. In their trip report on their website, they write,
As the time came closer for a carefully planned NomadMania Ukraine tour that was truly intrepid, the team was feeling anxious. To what extent were they responsible for those joining? And to what extent was NomadMania really doing the right thing by going to a war zone? Was it ethical or not? Courageous or just plain stupid?
To tell the truth, most people in the travel community, they told that we are crazy.
Not everyone understands why we chose to go here to a country at war. And some people expressed their thoughts about what we were doing on social media.
I'm sorry, this is fucking gross.
Yikes. The idea of going to Ukraine right now, while they're being attacked,
is absurd and disrespectful.
That's disgusting, and they should be ashamed.
Fuck that. You're there because you want to brag about traveling to a war zone.
Oh my god, that is so cringe and disgusting.
You get the picture. It doesn't surprise me, and to some extent I get it. As I mentioned, I had my concerns before going here. Not just for my own safety, but also just, is it right? As mentioned, I spoke a lot to Orest, and as a Ukrainian, he knows better than anyone if it's disrespectful for his people or if they would see it as a sign of respect and support. I also had a long conversation with Harry, the founder of NomadMania. His partner is Ukrainian, so he also knows a lot firsthand how a visit like this would be perceived by the locals. Here's what NomadMania wrote in an Instagram post recently.
There is an assumption in the international travel community that it's unethical to visit a country at war. What are you going to do there? Film destroyed buildings? Speak to impoverished locals? Put yourself at risk and make your family worried? All of this could make sense. But why did every self-respecting European president visit Kiev as soon as the Russian troops were pushed back? Right? A personal visit anywhere is a basic act of support which is usually necessary for any further more meaningful steps. It provides in-depth feeling and understanding of the situation on the ground, not through a screen and others' interpretation. Moreover, people in crisis areas often feel left out, so everything starts with a handshake and a hug. We at NomadMania started our educational Ukraine visit in Izum, probably the most badly damaged mid-sized city, which used to be under occupation for half a year and was liberated in September last year. No one greeted our group as warm as people of Izum who live 50 kilometers from the front line. Was it risky? Yes. Just a day before we arrived, a boy stepped on a landmine in the village of Karmyanka where we came with a humanitarian convoy. A few weeks earlier, not far from Izum, over 50 people got killed by a single ballistic rocket launch while having a dinner in Rosa. Fortunately, nothing bad happened to us. If you could only see the eyes of local people who greeted us with open arms and provided snacks that lasted all the way until Lviv. Such visits give hope.
The Radio Vagabond. Gotta keep moving.
Getting back to missile attacks, that is a risk too, especially in Kharkiv.
Kharkiv is being targeted almost on a weekly basis.
We were going to be in Kharkiv on the 16th of October, and just 10 days earlier, something happened.
On the 6th of October, there was an attack 50 meters from our hotel. The rocket hit the crossroad just on the street, and the area around is badly damaged.
Yes, 2 days after the booking and paying for our hotel in Kharkiv for the group, Orest received a phone call. It was the manager of the hotel that told him that a Russian rocket had hit just 50 meters away from the hotel entrance, damaging the front side of the building, and many other buildings in the area had their windows blown out. But don't worry, he said. We have changed some of the rooms, and otherwise everything's fine. Fine, Orest thought to himself. He told me that he felt like the universe was telling him that he was playing with fire. I can only imagine the internal dialogue Orest had back then.
Our hotel is fine, but the front windows are out, so they had to block them. That's why they changed the rooms, and we'll be staying in the inner side. But this is just for you to understand how close it can get. This hotel, it has the underground shelter. They professionally work with a group like us. Let's say, God forbid, we stay in a particular building and then there is a missile coming into that building. So usually what happens is that the upper floor gets like a bite, but even 2 floors down is basically untouched. I mean, shaken, but that's it. So, for example, in that hit in Kharkiv, which happened, there were no casualties at all, even though it looks pretty Armageddonic. Because usually with the shock wave, the windows are out and it's already enough visibility, yeah? So this is just for all of you to really realize what can happen.
Apart from the rockets and the landmines, it's a pretty safe country where it seems like everything is normal.
On the streets, everywhere in Ukraine is super safe. Like there is zero street crime. When people think of the war, they think that there are like some ambushes, people fight on each other on the streets. Here we have a classic World War II topic. Front line, and beyond the front line, nothing is happening. So you can do pictures, smile, no problem at all. Like it's every city in Ukraine, in terms of the street crime and violence, is much safer than every city in the United States. Like for sure. In our case, the dangers are rocket missiles. One rocket missile costs over $1 million. So they are very selective where to hit them. And at this very moment, you can see the streets on Lviv. There are festivals happening, conferences, opera, in Kyiv, even in Kharkiv some events are happening. Like clubs are open and so on, yeah? But I have to warn you. Yeah, I have to warn you, and everybody has to accept that this is not a joke. And for many people, as you know, visiting Syria, Afghanistan, and Libya is considered to be safer than going to Ukraine. And there is a reason for that. Because Ukraine is at full-scale war, and what we are doing is something really, really extraordinary, guys. This is, it's scary, and no one did what we are doing. No one went to the occupied areas without any humanitarian or rescue or military mission in such a group that we are doing. So even when we wanted to arrange a dinner in Izum, the restaurant owner told, I'm not accepting many people. This is too dangerous.
Yes, this is serious. And Orest also shared what we should do if we're on the street and here's a rocket approaching.
So let's assume there is the most terrible situation happening and you hear a sound of a rocket, which is getting close to you. Anything what you can do is just lie down. So whenever we'll be in Kharkiv, in Izum, look for some place where you can hide. You don't run, never. If something happening, it's a matter of seconds before it comes. So the ideal situation would be, let's say there is some small ravine, yeah? Or like there is a brick, you'll be next to the brick so it protects. And you always have to be lie down, because when the missile goes, it hits and then it goes in different directions, usually higher than the horizontal level. So that's what you should do. If the missile hits directly, then there is nothing will help. Yeah. The missile comes and you're behind the corner of the building and it's 15 meters from you, most probably you'll be fine, because people die from the shrapnel. Shrapnel is the explosive part, and usually when there's a rocket hit, there are thousands of shrapnels coming. Yeah? And even the small as a finger shrapnel can kill a person easily. So this is the biggest danger, yeah.
After the briefing, we all signed a responsibility waiver, saying that we knew what we were doing and going on this tour well informed.
Knowing this, we prepared, when you were booking this tour, you were clicking the responsibility waiver. To get even safer, we have it printed out, and I would kindly ask you sign all of it for you, yeah? Who is not signing, he's not going to Kharkiv.
The main fear is being hit by a rocket. So, like many other people in the group, I installed an app with missile alerts. But being in Kharkiv, so close to Russia, it only takes 1 minute to reach a target when launched from the nearby Belgorod across the border. So alarms in the app and sirens over the city usually turns on after the attack already happened. As Orest mentioned, the missiles cost around $1 million a piece, so it's not like it's raining missiles over Kharkiv, but it does happen on a regular basis. Just before we got there, close to the hotel, and shortly after, a few more, one hitting the local post center, killing 6 people. It's all about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Orest calls it Russian roulette, and it literally is.
Next week on the Radio Vagabond.
In the next episode, we'll get on a 15-hour train ride across the country, more than 1,000 kilometers from Lviv to Kharkiv, close to the front line. Here we meet the locals as we visit a small village completely destroyed by a Russian attack. We go there with an NGO and help handing out humanitarian aid to the few locals that have decided to return home. In Izum, south of Kharkiv, we have a conversation with some women sewing camouflage nets. And then we go on a walking tour of Kharkiv, the second biggest city of Ukraine. Make sure to listen to that one And please share this episode in your social media platforms. It's important for the world to hear about what's going on in Ukraine right now. My name is Palle Bo, and I gotta keep moving. See you next week.
Radio Vagabond.
Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.